Good Sunday morning, dear friends. So this is Godfrey Cavers of godfreycavers.com. Please subscribe to this channel and have a look at the website. I provide life coaching, and today I would like to talk about how we can transform our toxic behaviors into the real men that we are, the gold that we are, the kings that we are. Let's talk about going from our shadow. Look at why. Start to use this fairy tale of Iron John to transform our shadows into gold. So a long time ago, or was there no time? Far, far away, but nowhere, in the mythopoetic space, was a king, and he felt restless. He said to his advisors, "Bring me something wild." And so his advisors sent out adventurers into the forest, of the unconscious, surrounding the village and the king's realm. And they didn't come back. So the king sent more warriors out into the forest to recover the ones that had gone before. He sent 10, and then they didn't come back. 40, and they didn't come back. 100, and they all did not come back. And so he made a decree that no one should go into that forest. No one should go into the unconscious, for it was far too dangerous. And the villagers lived contented lives, tending those fields, but with forever that brooding forest surrounding the village. Sometimes wolves came out of that forest and killed some of the villagers, and ate some of the crops. So it was a problem. One day, an adventurer came from a foreign land and came to the king and said, "Is there anything here that should never be done? Is there any adventure that is not something that should be done?" And the king said, "Yeah, the return rate into the forest is pretty low. No one has come out of that forest alive." And the adventurer said, "That is the kind of quest that I need to do." So he took himself and his dog into the forest and wandered there until one day there was this pool of water. The dog was thirsty and started to drink the water, and this great hand came out and took his dog down. The adventurer was very sad that his dog was drowned, but he kept his wits about him, and he came back out of the forest and asked for men to come and help bucket that pool, empty that pool of the water so that he could uncover what was in that pool. Now, bucketing takes a long time, a long, long time. But eventually the waters receded and they found the dead dog in this mass of coppery hair-like substance, and they realized that this was an ancient man. buried, but magically still alive. So they helped this wild man out of the pool. He was covered in hair from head to foot. And they took him back to the village. And the villagers were amazed. They were so grateful that their fellow warriors and farmers actually came back this time out of the forest. But with them they brought the wild man. They put him in a cage because they were frightened of him. And because they were frightened of him, some of the villagers taunted him and said, wild man, ha ha ha, now you're safe from us. We are safe from you. You are in the cage. But after a while, they just got bored of him and they took the cage to the outside of the village and forgot about him. One day, the king's son was playing with his golden ball, that symbol of childhood. The golden ball, and he threw it high up into the air and was just enjoying being a child. Yay! But he was curious about this wild man, so he went over to the wild man in his cage and he was bouncing his ball and he said, hi, wild man. Ha! How are you? Who are you? And the wild man said, I am the shadow that you deny. And the boy says, ha! What's that? He was throwing his ball, but he wasn't completely conscious of where the ball came down. So one of these times the ball came down into the cage of the wild man. Oh, wild man, give me back my ball. And the wild man says, sure, I'll give you back your ball if you unlock this cage. No, I will not. There is no way that I will unlock that cage. So he went off back to the palace, very sad. And he grew up. But he just longed for that golden ball. He longed to play with his golden ball. He went back to the cage and said to the wild man, please let me have my ball. All you have to do is to throw it through the bars. And he said, well, if I do something for you, you have to do something for me. You need to unlock that cage. And the boy very sadly went back. He was now a teenager, and I think he was more interested anyway in video games and things. So when he was about 35, he had a few kids, and he felt, well, is this my life? All I do is make money for the family, and is this my mission in my life? What are my gifts actually? And he had this idea that perhaps if he got his golden ball back, that he would know what his gifts were. So he went back to the wild man and he said, wild man, even if I let you out, I don't even know where the key is to the cage. For his father had put the key somewhere, and he hadn't told the little boy where the key was. And the wild man says, well, I know where that key is. It is under your mother's pillow. Under my mother's pillow? But that means I would have to go into the place where she makes love to my father. And I would have to go against the love of my mother. Ha ha, said the wild man. Yes, you would. Well, the man really wanted to know what his gifts were. So he tiptoed up the steps into his mother's chamber. There her dress was laid on the bed. But he thought, I have to find out what my gifts are. I am so old. I need to know what I am supposed to do in this life. So he lifted up that pillow and took that rusty old key from underneath the pillow. And he tiptoed down the steps, down, out of the palace, out to the edge of the village. And he put the key in the lock, but it slipped. And it caused a cut in his hand, and the blood went into the lock and acted like oil and lubricated the lock. So although he had a wound in his hand, he was able to open the cage, and the wild man came out and gave the man his golden ball. And so there, the man would know what his gifts are, except the wild man was about to go into the forest again when the man realized, wow, if I just go back to the palace with my golden ball, they will know eventually, even if I hide it. My mother and father would know that I have let you out of your cage. And they would beat me. They would blame me. So the wild man said, well, of course you can come. Why not come with me into the wild forest? So they went into the wild forest. Now in this forest there was a clear spring. And the wild man said to him, if you look after this spring, without letting anything fall into this spring, then I will know that you are worthy. And the man said, well, sure, I'll sit by this spring, no problem. And he made sure that all the leaves of the trees did not fall into the spring, or the twigs, or whatever, the birds. But his sore finger was so sore, and he knew that this finger would be healed if he put his finger in the spring. So he dipped it into the spring very quickly, but immediately saw that his finger was gold where he dipped it in. So he hid his finger behind his back. And when the wild man came back, with his hand behind his back, the wild man says, well, what's behind your back? And so he had to show him his golden finger. He said, oh, don't worry. This time I will forgive you. And you may look after the spring more. So the man was there, and he loved this clear water. And so just to look a little bit more clearly, he brushed his hand through his hair. And as he took his hand out, one of his hairs fell into the spring and immediately turned gold. He took the hair quickly out of the spring. But when the wild man came back, he knew he had this sixth sense that it had turned to gold and knew that something had fallen into that clear spring. He said, well, keep looking after that spring. I'll forgive you this time. That clear spring was so clear that the man looked into the spring but let his hair fall into the spring and immediately completely turned into gold. When the wild man came back, the man had covered his hair. Uncover your hair, said the wild man, and he had to uncover his hair and show that his head was gold. The wild man said, well, now you are ready to leave me. No! Well, you know what? I'll take you on my shoulders and take you back to the king. Oh, that would be fun, said the man. So he got on his shoulders, and as they were walking, he merged into the adventurer. And they were one. So the adventurer's son arrived back at the king's palace, and the king said, wow, that is something wild. Look at my son. He has grown into a man. You are ready to take up your kingship and to rule the land. The end. So we have the boy, the divine child, playing with his ball, and then the shadow of, yeah, there are shadows in there that we could go into, but let's not right now. And then there's the wild man is also part of us. And the adventurer. And all these are aspects of our soul, of our psyche, and the king. These are the Jungian archetypes that we work with, both in the Mankind Project, and also I could go a lot deeper with you into your life. I also do biography work, and really looking for the divine in the human being. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe this video, and I will keep offering videos. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.